Good morning, everybody. It is now 1 a.m. Standard Pacific Time, and Tony and I are here early in the studio. And why are we here early in the studio? Well, we got our brand new TA08 PRO chassis. It is our brand new touring car, and we're very excited to talk about it. So we're here very early, and we're gonna tell you all about it right now. Okay, let's talk about the key features of the brand new TA08 PRO. So, this is a four-wheel drive chassis, dual belt. It uses the differentials from the TRF 420. It has universal shafts. It has full ball bearings and aluminum shocks. So, what makes this Pro? Well, those things I just mentioned. Key, aluminum shocks, ball bearings, and universals. That's what makes it Pro. Tamiya gives you a taste as to some of the hop-ups by giving you those three key things. So, key feature with this brand new kit is the V-step chassis. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. We also have three of the option parts that are going to be released simultaneously with the kit. So, carbon fiber shock towers, because the stock ones are plastic. Sway bars, because everybody wants sway bars to tune the chassis. And aluminum servo mount. Replaces the stock plastic one. One of the coolest things about getting something brand new is the packaging. I'm all about the packaging. And as you can see, our brand new kit is wrapped in shrink wrap. And so we have my trusty box cutter. And we're gonna open up this bad boy. And as one of the characters in The Big Bang Theory said, let's pull this thing open. We got our card here, tells us all the marketing stuff, about the key cool things about the new chassis, all its features, all the things that you can do to it. Comes with Tamiya's standard box where you can use it later to carry your car. This will also fit into our pit trolley bag. Description is listed underneath the video. Okay. First things first, we have a brand new chassis. And let's talk about the chassis. You guys out there may or may not know that Tamiya makes our mid-level touring cars out of either two things: fiberglass reinforced plastic or carbon reinforced plastic. Typically, carbon reinforced plastic is offered later on as a hop-up to tune the chassis. Some of you may remember, or maybe don't even know, our Mini M07 comes with a carbon reinforced chassis. The hop-up on that kit is a fiberglass reinforced chassis. So what is the difference? The difference is fiberglass reinforced plastic has more flex. That's typically good when you're driving the car in parking lot racetracks or bumpy racetracks where you want a little bit more flex, generates more traction. You want a stiffer carbon reinforced chassis when you're racing on carpet or tracks that have a lot of traction. There's less flex in the main chassis, meaning the suspension and your shocks are doing more of the work. So on our TA08, this is made out of carbon reinforced plastic. And the way you can see is the carbon reinforced plastic has a little bit of a lighter look to it, more of a grayish look to it is the best way I can describe it. It is also stiffer, and you can also tell there is a marking on the chassis. Where did I see it? Oh, somewhere in here where you can see where it says either CF for carbon reinforced or GF for glass reinforced. So that's usually in the mold there. So this is out of carbon. It's a little bit stiffer, and you can put this on the board to see how flat it is. When we build it, everything gets laid out a little bit better. So one of the key things about this chassis compared to some of our other chassis, it's very narrow. It's almost as narrow as our TRF 420 carbon plate chassis. I'll have to take a measurement to that later and see if it's narrower or just as narrow. It's also V-stepped. By it being V-stepped, when the chassis leans, there's less of a chance of the outer edges rubbing and, causing the car to get disrupted around the corner. So that's kind of a cool thing. So that's the chassis. I'm sure that's a lot of what you guys wanted to see. It's all one piece. We've got our belts here. We've got the rear belt and the front belt. The front belt's a little bit longer than the rear belt. So you have that. Comes with wheels, but it does not come with tires. Tamiya leaves it up to you, depending on your local racetrack or your local parking lot that you race with your friends, as to what tire is best for those conditions. Multi-spoke wheels. They're 24 millimeter in width, so standard size. And we've got our parts bag full of goodies. Let's take a look at what's inside this thing. Oh, this is kind of important. So Tamiya's new shocks have been updated. It comes with big bore, high volume shocks, and it has the new V parts. What Tamiya did about 2 years ago, yeah, it's almost been 2 years, is they updated the V parts. That's the top of the shock, the bottom of the shock, and the shock spring retainer. And what we did is the ball that typically snaps in there is bigger. I believe it's 5.8 millimeters instead of 4 millimeters in circumference. So it gives you a bigger ball and more of a meaty connection to the part. And what we've noticed is on the old system, the 4 millimeter ball inside the plastic, there was a little bit of play up and down. So you really don't want that. So the new setup, the tolerances are much better. So there's no movement up and down with the ball. So it's something you can upgrade. If you have older Tamiya shocks, you can upgrade your shocks to these parts. So we'll link that in the description. So that's really cool, comes with that. And we have brand new suspension. Got staples going all over the place. So let's take a look at the suspension parts. These are brand new. We've got the lower arm here for the front. I believe this is the lower arm here. For the rear, you got the top A-arms. So traditionally, most touring cars, or at least all of Tamiya's touring cars, use a turnbuckle shaft to control the top arm. You can adjust camber that way. The brand new TA08 does it a little bit differently. It uses more of a real A-arm. And once we get the car built, we'll go into those details. So right now we just want to look at the parts. And this is made out of, is it glass filled? This is glass filled. Okay, so I see the GF. So this is out of fiberglass plastic. So that's really cool. This is kind of an important piece to look at here. So we've got the plastic shock towers. They're very small, very minimalistic. The profile of the car, if you look at it from the front, the shocks sit at a pretty deep angle. So when we see the whole build, we'll go into that in greater detail. But they're made out of plastic. You've got your plastic servo mount, which we'll show you a little bit later. We already have hop-ups for that. You can replace this with the carbon ones, and you can replace the plastic servo mount with an aluminum piece. So pretty cool. We've got part of the steering system here, and this part here looks to be some kind of motor protector, kind of similar to the TA08, but when we get it built, we'll go into more detail there. Okay, we've got some more suspension. We've got your suspension mounts here, which it looks to be very similar to how our suspension mounts are used on our previous generation cars. So for example, this is a 1D block, a 1A, and then here. So these look like you can replace these already if you want with some of the existing hop-ups we have. So that's pretty cool. Also made out of plastic. We've got your differential. This is where it holds your diffs. They're keyed, very similar to other cars that we've had. Pretty cool. This is a new piece. I wonder what this does different. This looks familiar. This does not. So we'll have to take a look when we do the build. Okay, we've got steering parts, and these look to be carbon. Looks like they're carbon, feels like they're carbon. They're pretty stiff. So wow, pretty cool. You're getting carbon parts, carbon plastic parts off the gate. These look to be designed very similar to the TRF 420's new suspension, or not suspension, but steering blocks. Is a two-piece block where you can change this to a carbon piece. So I'll have to take a closer look later to see if that's exactly the same part. It looks to be. So you get 4 of these because you're going to use them in the front and you're going to use them in the rear, and you'll see why when we get this car built. So again, those are made out of carbon plastic, not to be confused with carbon fiber plate. Okay, we have a brand new bumper mount, and there's something really interesting about the bumper. Most of you may or may not know there's a feature that Tamiya can do now with their cars. It started with the 420. You can move the body forward 2 millimeters. That will change the way the car's aero affects the chassis. We'll get into details about that once we get the car built, but you'll see here that there's some offset stuff for the body posts, and that's what that does, is by flipping the body post, you can either move the body forward 2 millimeters or back to center. So there's that. More parts. I love unboxing. Here we have the center pulley and some other parts. I see some more steering parts. I see a cover for the front or rear differential gearbox area. Nicely new molds. And they duplicated that tree, so it looks to be symmetrical. That's pretty cool. Okay, these are the, what do we call these? The pillow bushings. This is used on our brand new suspension for the 420. It's a suspension piece that can be upgraded to your existing TA07. So it comes standard with the TA08. You can adjust different things in the suspension block by just replacing these bushings. We'll get in more detail about that once we get the car built. So that's cool, it comes with that. Oh, more body mounts. I believe these are the ones for the rear. And this is a new front bumper. It's kind of aero. We're getting into a lot of aero stuff here now, especially, airflow underneath the chassis is becoming more important. So there's that. Oh, what else do we got? All right. We have a brand new foam bumper, and this looks a little bit different than our typical bumpers that come in our touring car chassis. This has these little pieces of foam you can take out, and we'll have to look at the instructions later on when we do the build, but it has to do with the airflow underneath the chassis. So you can pick them in, take them out, and control airflow through the bumper. So when we take this car to the track, and there'll be two of them at the track coming up shortly, the man behind the camera, Mr. Tony Phelan, will be driving one, and I'll be driving one. So we'll have to test that out, what that does. We've got internal gear parts. They're made out of glass, so that's kind of neat. These are the same internal gear parts as used on the TA08 or the TRF420, TR419. So there's that. Your standard Tamiya servo saver parts. Let's see. We've got your miscellaneous double-sided tape, foam padding. It comes with a pinion gear. Your wheel nuts, that's kind of cool. You've got this important bag. This here you have, let's open up this thing. We got ball bearings. We have some turnbuckle parts. We've got, ooh, check that out. We've got our universals, and it comes with universals with some aluminum components, some ball ends, and more universal parts here. So that's cool. Some basic Tamiya tools to get this thing built, but you guys are pro, just like the kit. So I'm sure you have some pro tools. And let's see. More plastic parts. More screws. There's not a whole lot of screws that I found yet. Maybe this car has the least amount of screws ever in our history. I don't know. We'll find out. Suspension shafts, more aluminum turnbuckles. Some suspension pillow balls. Okay, we've got your gear differentials. These are oil filled. You can change the viscosity inside the differential to adjust for different driving conditions. We'll go more into that after the car is built. You get a front and a rear one. Has the seals. Oh, this is kind of cool. So this is the O-rings that typically go inside the gear differential. On most of our kits, it comes with a black O-ring. Our 420 comes with a red O-ring. It's a little bit softer of an O-ring. And we have a new hop-up O-ring it's blue in color. It seals the differential a little bit better, and it comes standard with your TA08 PRO. And these look to be maybe a little bit different gasket for the differentials. Typical gaskets I've seen are green in color. These are more reddish. Comes with two different spur gears. It comes with Tamiya's 04 module, which is a finer pitch, and it comes with its 06 module spur gear, which is a coarser pitch. It's a more durable. So if you're racing on tracks that are a little bit dirtier, more pebbles, probably want to run the coarser gear. It'll save you from stripping it out. And if you're racing on carpet or tracks that are well maintained, you'll want to use the 04 module gear. And of course, you can use anybody's spur gear. It's a universal mount if you don't want to use the Tamiya gears. We've got some ball bearings. Oh, there is a couple of bushings. The bushings are probably used in the steering rack, which can be replaced with 8x5 bearings if you so choose. Some more spacers. We've got the steel outdrives to the differentials. You can replace these, link in the description, with some aluminum ones. So that's cool. And some hardware. And looks like we have two viscosities of oil. So maybe out of the box, they have you running a different oil in the front versus the rear. We'll have to take a look at that. And a bunch of more shims, which we offer separately as well for those of you looking for more shims. Some more ball studs. Those are pretty cool. Oh, this is pretty cool. It comes with the ball studs that have your hex driver that you can screw and unscrew from the top. These are also available as hop-ups, but come standard in the kit. So that's cool to see. And that was parts bag B. And I think this is the last thing going. We got an aluminum motor mount. It is anodized in Tamiya blue, as we like to call it. So it's out of aluminum. I'm sure we'll come up with a hop-up that's all finned and lightweight. And we got springs. Got a green labeled one. I believe that's kind of soft. Two greens. We got our shock parts. These are big bore, super short dampers. Aluminum top. Ooh, looks to be a brand new collar for the spring retainer. That's kind of cool. Our internal parts. Comes with 4-hole pistons. Oh, and it comes with the blue O-rings for the shock seals. Typically has either clear or red. These are blue, so these might be super dialed. And more springs, and these are also the same rate as those. They're green. Some more screws. We have some anti-wear grease. And our shock oil. And Tamiya's kits, in typical fashion, come with 400 weight Tamiya silicone oil, which is standard in all our kits. It's a good baseline. Some more pillow balls. And that covers it. That covers everything that's inside this kit. It does come with your instruction manual. In the instruction manual, you also have a setup sheet, I believe. It gives you gear ratio options. It gives you all the ways you can set up the suspension for tow. So we'll get more into that after we've built the car. And you do have a setup sheet. We'll be putting up a PDF file of the setup sheet once we get our hands on it on the product page, so make sure to look for that. So that pretty much covers everything that's inside the box. Okay, so you saw everything that's in the box. Quite a bit of parts. So Savor the build when you get one of these in your hand. Take it to the garage, take it to your dining room table, if you're so allowed. Take it to your workbench and savor the build. We're gonna build these, Tony and I, to TCS spec. What is TCS spec? We're gonna get into that in a different video as to what that is. But we're gonna put Reedy fixed timing 17.5 motors. We're gonna take these to the track, our local track here in Southern California. Closest to us is Cal Raceway. We're gonna take it and drive these things around in stock configuration and see what they do. So make sure to subscribe and make sure to follow us so when you see when that video gets uploaded. So thanks for watching, thanks for coming, and we will see you next time.